Ms. Tang Ying, the Director General of the Global Development Promotion Center, the China International Development Cooperation Agency, Mabel Lu, co-founder, Secretary General of the Center for China and Globalization, my colleague Smriti Aryal, UN Women Representative in China. I also want to recognize the presence of the representatives of UNICEF, AMA, Beate, UNDP, Stephen, UNIDO, and Justine, UNFPA. The UN family here, excellencies present, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday at the Great Hall of the People, there was a beautiful gathering to mark International Women's Day. A festive atmosphere and a wonderful opportunity to witness outstanding women convened from various walks of life. I would like to commend Ms. Shen, the president of the All China Women's Federation, for her leadership and commitment to advancing Sustainable Development Goal number 5, which on all counts will be the anchor for the success of all the SDGs. Ladies and gentlemen, the clarion call once made by Chairman Mao that women hold up half the sky enabled the emancipation of women in China and can be an experience many countries can learn from. With nearly 64% of women in China in the labor force, they have been the cornerstone of China's meteoric economic progress. The global average of women in the labor force is at 39%, and this is a growth trajectory that enabled China to rise from a per capita GDP of a mere $180 in 1979 to the current $12,500 it is at. The global theme of this year's International Women's Day is Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress, speaks to the core principles of gender equality and women's empowerment. It emphasizes the urgent need to strengthen financing, institutions to address women and girls, poverty, and invest in female-headed households and organizations, advocate for gender-disaggregated data to eradicate gendered poverty through new development strategies. Gender equality is not only a fundamental human right, but a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. It is not negotiable. The equal rights and treatments of all genders are crucial to deliver on the promise of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Globally, 1 in 10 women today live in extreme poverty. Poverty disproportionately affects women and girls due to the intersecting discrimination and the systemic failures, emphasizing the urgent need for accelerated action to end poverty, SDG 1, and achieve gender equality, SDG 5, by 2030. To achieve these goals, we must expand the fiscal space through inclusive and redistributed economic policies, well-targeted public and private investments, debt sustainability frameworks that integrate climate vulnerabilities, and increased official development assistance for gender equality and women's empowerment. Furthermore, we must strengthen public institutions' accountability while removing barriers to direct gains and adopting intersectional perspectives in decision-making to advance gender equality. This entails providing robust, flexible financing for women's organizations and improved coordination across different departments and tiers of government. Investment in public services to strengthen gender-responsive social protection system can serve as a beacon of progress in inclusive economic development. Specifically, public care systems could contribute to improving education, health, and nutrition outcomes while preventing gender-based violence, reducing the burden of unpaid care work, and facilitating women's access to improved work conditions and sustainable livelihoods. Enhancing multidimensional poverty data and statistics is also essential to understand the challenges faced by women living in poverty and to monitor progress effectively. We must increase the production and use of gender-disaggregated data to hold levels of poverty eradication. Moreover, we must advocate for a shift towards care and green economies that amplify women's voices and address poverty, inequality, environmental degradation, all of which heavily affect women and marginalized communities. As we approach 2025, a year that will mark the 30th anniversary of the 4th World Conference on Women, and the adoption of the Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action. And as we continue to align China's 14th five-year plan, the vast potential arises to enhance gender financing in China and in the rest of the world. To seize these opportunities, we must take advantage of cross-sectoral efforts involving policymakers, financing institutions, private sector, social organizations, academia, and development partners to work together, rejuvenate momentum on gender equality and women's empowerment commitments, as well as the SDGs. Today's symposium provides a timely opportunity to discuss key dimensions of promoting gender equality and women's empowerment in China. As the United Nations family in China kicks off the formulation of its new cooperation framework from 2026 to 2030, mainstreaming gender equality and women's empowerment remains our collective highest priority. To achieve this integral goal, we have established at the United Nations in China a gender theme group, which is co-chaired by my colleagues, Smriti from UN Women and Justine from UNFPA. This theme group provides access to policy advice, normative processes, and programs to ensure rights and empowerment for women and girls. This also includes the UN's engagement with stakeholders and other partners in China through joint development projects and South-South cooperation. China has long been a partner to developing countries in providing assistance and supporting South-South cooperation. In its 2021 white paper, as Madam Tang brought out, highlighting the international development cooperation efforts, China pointed to the SDGs and the 2030 agenda as the guiding framework for its contributions to partner countries, while stressing the role of multilateralism. Notably, gender equality was one of the 8 key priorities. As China continues to expand its development cooperation institutions, we see continued opportunities to draw from the international best practices, norms, and standards. Together, we can build a gender-responsive infrastructure of development cooperation policies, guidelines, and frameworks to effectively mainstream gender equality and women's empowerment at the programmatic and at the institutional levels to achieve SDG 5 and other cross-cutting goals. The United Nations family in China is committed to working with the government, stakeholders, and partners, which includes many of you joining us here today, to support the continued progress for needs, rights, and interests of all women and girls. By enabling women and girls to tap into their potential, we are not just empowering individuals, we are catalyzing progress for everyone. In his International Women's Day message, the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, said, and I quote, "We must support women's organizations on the front line. We must invest in programs to end violence against women and to drive women's inclusion and leadership in economies, digital technologies, peace building, and climate action." End of quote. Ladies and gentlemen, let us therefore invest to achieve substantial equality in financing mechanism, resource mobilization, and advancing and accelerating transformative change. I wish you all a very happy International Women's Day. God bless. Thank you very much. Sheshe.